and welcome to this episode of the Training Grounds. Today we will be talking about how to clear normal mode raid with this one singular free-to-play friendly team. Now, before we get started, I do want to go over the gear to show you that the gear that I am currently using is not anything outside of the realm of your possibility to get. So we will start off with Commander Lorena. Commander Lorena is going to be one of your main primary DPSers. Now, you will see that I do have her on a destruction crit set. She is also plus 15 with a plus 30 Daydream Joker. Now, these stats are not unreasonable to get. Now, you will see I do have a piece of level 90 gear here, but for the most part, it is all 85 gear. Destruction sets, you can get this from free gear. You can also get this in your arena gear. As you can see, not many of these are very good per se. You will want to do a critical hit damage neck. You will want a health and or attack ring. The reason why I went with health here is because you do want to make sure that she can take some of the hits in the raid itself. Boots are going to be speed because you do want some of those natural turns. At 154, she's not very super fast, but she's also not very super slow. Overall, very balanced bruiser DPS stats here. Nothing outside of the realm of possibility. A lot of critical hit chance because you will want to be getting those critical hit. You will be wanting to do plus 15 as well. Now, moving on to your other damage dealer, this is going to be Alexa. As you can see, plus 15 again. She is rocking the plus 30 Daydream Joker as well. All 85 gear here except for the 188 dagger. This was just the best dagger that I had at the time. 92% critical hit chance and 196 speed. Now, this is because she is on a speed set. Not very many speed substats here. Critical hit damage neck along with attack ring and the speed boots as well. So this is something you want to shoot for. Also, Alexa is going to help you out a lot in your wyvern hunts, so definitely worth the dual role here. Your healer is going to be Angelic Montmorency. I have her on a plus 5 Magdaros tome because, well, that's just what I've got. I do have one piece of level 90 gear on her at the moment, but she also has some plus 9 gear and level 67 boots. I actually need to level these up. She is on some very scuffed gear right now, but it is going to work overall. I have ran through with this, but 171 speed, decent HP, but very high in the health range. Now, I will maybe level these up along with her artifact as well. The Magdaros tome is going to help her cycle very fast. Very important because you are going to want to have her making sure that she's getting those heals off and getting the cleanses. Now, the last character that you saw is going to be Adventurer Ross, and unfortunately he does have some pretty decent gear on with the Rise of the Monarchs artifact. A little bit higher than normal, but I'm also using him for other things, so I didn't want to de-gear him down. So this is a little bit higher than you probably need, but it is something that you will be able to obtain eventually down the road, right? So you will want to have a lot of effectiveness, a lot of speed, and a decent amount of bulk on him. Artifacts you can use in place of the Rise of the Monarchs is things like Adamant Shield, Arius, in order to provide for that mitigation. Now, the reason why you will be bringing Adventurer Ross is for defense break, buff strip, as well as an AoE for one of the bosses. So with that said, we are going to get into here and I will show you how we clear this. Now, this is a 44 morale team, which should allow you to clear this in 3 full runs. That's 2 bosses each time. So while I do the normal just clearing, I will just speed through this, and then once we get to the boss, I will explain how to beat said boss. Okay, so now that we are at the boss, we are at Devourer Arahakan here. So let's talk a little bit about Devourer Arahakan's abilities. While you have these two little minions up in the front, Devourer Arahakan is not going to take much in the way of damage. You have Crisis Response here. If the caster's health is below 50% when attacked, this grants an additional turn, decreasing skill cooldown by 3 turns. This is going to reset his ultimate move immediately after hitting 50% after being attacked. This can only trigger once per battle. Now his second ability is Incubate Venom, and this increases the attack and speed of the caster at the end of each turn. If the Corrupted Web can be used, caster is granted stackable increased attack and critical hit chance. So you are going to want to make sure that you are not stalling this fight out for very long, or else they're going to ramp up and do a bunch of damage. So next one is going to be Stance Change. When Corrupted Web can be used, grants immunity that cannot be dispelled and drastically decreases decreases damage suffered. When Corrupted Web cannot be used, all enemies are inflicted with an unable to be buffed debuff that cannot be dispelled and ignores immunity, and are unable to receive combat readiness increased effects. Okay. And the last one, dashes towards the enemy and attacks with a 75% chance to stun for 1 turn. Now, Corrupted Web is going to be the ultimate move here. This sprays a Corrupted Web at all enemies, decreasing your speed for 2 turns and decreasing combat readiness by 50% before summoning 2 Azumashik hunters. This skill can only be used after all allies except for the caster have died. So you have to kill the first 2 enemies up here in the front in order for him to use this ability for you to be able to do damage. So as you can see, you will have to make sure that you are managing the minions alongside of the boss itself. So I will go ahead and fight through this and show you how this fight is done.
If I must fight. I'll protect you. I hope you're ready. If I must fight. Should we get started? Purifying flame. Burn away the evil.
So as you can see, the defense break into the Commander Arena really does a lot of damage along with the Daydream Joker. Absolute massive damage. You will want to make sure that you save some charges for your Archies in order to take care of the first enemies. I know this did make it seem like it was very, very easy, and honestly, once you have the minions handled, it really is. So the Daydream Joker does a very high amount of damage to these bosses, and the double up into the defense break is very, very solid. Now from here, you will want to make sure that you teleport back to the main area, and then you're going to go over to the right hand side working towards the next boss. And we will not be doing that boss this round, but we'll be back in here after we clear this part in order to do the next boss. This is very, very important that you save and make sure that you go down this route before you end. Okay, so now as you can see here on the map, we did clear almost all the way to the second boss. Now, the reason being is that this is going to make it a lot easier for us morale-wise in order to get to the second boss and then get to Secretary Vera down here in the bottom left hand side. We will be taking out these two bosses this run, and we should be able to manage with just enough morale in order to clear both of these. So without further ado, let's make our way to the boss. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I did manual this fight, and that is because I didn't want my adventurer Ross in order to use his S3, so I could save it for this fight, and I will go over why that is. Now, with this boss, we're going to take a look at his abilities. So Death Sentence, this increases attack and speed of the caster permanently and grants an extra turn when the caster's health is 40% or less. This activates Crush after using Slice when Crush is available for use. An extra turn will only be granted once per battle. Now, the next one is Shadow. When the caster's health is 70% or less, they are granted an extra turn and stealth for 2 turns at the end of the turn. When the caster is stealthed at the start of the turn, recovers health and grants permanent stackable increased attack and speed. Stealth can only be granted once every 2 turns. The skill does not activate when the health is less than 40%. Extra turn will, however, only be granted once per battle. Next one up is going to be Inner Peace. When attacking, casters granted stackable increased attack and speed, increases chance of evading attacks from debuffed enemies. So if you are debuffed, you are not going to want to attack this boss. This does also counter attack following a successful evasion while dispelling any debuffs inflicted on the caster. A successful counter attack always results in a critical hit. This is going to be rough. That's why you don't want to make sure you're not attacking when you are debuffed, and that's where Angelic Mont is going to come into play. Slice cuts the enemy, decreasing his defense for 2 turns, and then his ultimate move is going to be Crush. This rushes forward towards the enemy and attacks, stunning for 2 turns. When the target's health is less than 50% when attacking, they also lose 99% of their health after the attack. When Slice, this skill will not be activated. When silenced, this skill will not be activated and will only increase cooldown count. This skill will only activate when the caster's health is less than 40%. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to want to make sure that you have is your AoE. And you want to make sure that Ross always has this up when you are close to getting him below 70%. That way you can break him out of stealth. Now, that is very, very important. And even if you are debuffed at that point, you will want to make sure that you use it, because because the health gain and the increased attack and speed are going to be very, very detrimental. Now, you can kill the front two enemies, but they also regen. So these are used in order to give you targets to hit when you are debuffed. But I will go through this fight. Make sure you pay attention, and let's get this on.
Here.
二重の作戦よ。そこらの兵とは違います。だって指揮官ですから。この矛先に込めて。相手をしてあげましょう。頑張ります。怖くて辛いですけど、絶対に諦めません。最善を尽くします。
Should we get started? No destiny can stop me.
負けません。切ります。鍛錬は続けていますよ。毎日欠かすことなく。
If I must fight, take this.
士気を上げて。私の出番ですか？アラキの活躍を褒めるある。
さすれば愚か者どもを噛みちぎってくれよう。
相手をしてあげましょう。登場はもっと盛大にあるある。
まあよい。神聖なる力だ。
So as you can see, again, the double up Ross into the Commando Arena is very insane for the amount of damage that you're going to be doing. Very, very important. One of the other key things is that the two minions in the front will strip your buffs as well as inflict potential debuffs on you. So having Adventurer Ross is very important as well due to elemental advantage. So after you finish up here, you are going to want to go right back to where we started, and we're going to make our way to Secretary Vera next. Okay, so we are at Secretary Vera here, and we're going to pop in, and now you might be thinking, oh man, Alexa and Momo are going to have a hard time here because, well, elemental disadvantage, but let's take a look at what we have. So first up is going to be Final Evolution. This grants the caster stackable attack, defense, and speed increase every turn after hatching from a cocoon, or from a cocoon. Prepare evolution. If the caster's health is 50% or less when attacked, attacks all enemies before transforming into a huge cocoon and summons 2 Karex chargers. Damage suffered in one attack does not exceed 50% of max health. Okay, fantastic. Mystery of Life increases attack and speed of the caster each time an Azumashik Watcher hatches, and increases combat readiness of the caster each time an Azumashik Watcher takes damage. Okay, Spew Rock spits a pile of stones at 2 random enemies with a 50% chance to stun for 1 turn. And the ultimate, Incubate Eggs, summons up to 4 Azumashik Watchers. Existing ally monsters have skill cooldowns reduced by 3 turns before being granted an extra turn. So you do have to get rid of these eggs as fast as possible. So you are going to want to make sure that you stack up your souls as you come, because you are going to want to Archie right out of the gate. So you will want to potentially Archie both times for your first two turns. So this will take them most of the way down, and then you want to Archie yet again in order to clear out all of the eggs. This will also take Vera down quite a bit. As you can see, we are almost down to half health here. So you are going to want to hit here. You're going to get 2 rocks. Hopefully this doesn't stun your Commando Arena, because you're going to pop in here. You're going to get to just about halfway. You will want to potentially double up and burn here if you have that. So this is going to push you the rest of the way. Now it doesn't matter, because Secretary Vera is going to go into the cocoon, will come out at half health. So you are just going to want to focus on the cocoon at this point. You'll want to heal up just a little bit here. You can basically ignore the 2 front people, but get yourself some defense here. AoE, it's going to do a little bit, not much. Ross doesn't do too much here, but you will be just hitting away at the cocoon. Should be relatively quick to take down. Okay, so we pop Secretary Vera out of the cocoon, comes back to full health. We are going to just basically focus on this finishing up right here. You do have your Archie as well, so if you're not doing anything with a Momo, let's say you don't need to heal at this point, you can also potentially soul burn the S2 here so that you can do it back to back. That's going to do a lot of damage. We didn't get the defense break there, but that doesn't matter too much. We will just Archie here in order to do some extra damage very quick. We are almost finished up here. We did get the Ross soul burn, so we should just finish it up. We just finish it up right here. So one thing you are going to want to do at this point is you are going to want to come back here to the middle, and you are going to want to auto your way up through here using the remainder of your energy. And the reason being is that this is going to make it so that you can do the council as well as the queen in your next entry. Okay, and we're back, and we're going to be finishing up the raid today. So one of the things I did want to cover before we go in and cover the raid is I did change up my Alexa's gear a little bit because I had to take a couple of days off to let my tokens come back. I did use her for some other things, so I did change her gear up a little bit. You will notice that if you looked at the first 2 run-throughs, I had a little bit more speed and a little less critical hit damage. I did have 241 critical hit damage in the other one. However, I did have 196 speed in that. So I did slow her down just a bit and increased her critical hit damage to go with the Daydream Joker a bit more. Now you will notice that similar to the previous one, most of my gear here is free to play. I did switch out the speed set for a Destro set. Now you will be able to get Destro sets in the way of your free to play login gear, as well as some other ways, right? So these are still achievable stats for the free to play player. I do have one piece of 70 gear in here, and this is also a rate drop, so you can potentially get it. Didn't roll very amazingly, right? So these stats are not something super out of the norm for other potential sets and stats. So again, a little bit slower, a little bit higher damage on that. All of the rest of the team will be the exact same. I haven't changed anybody else's gear. Let me make sure. So we will be doing Council as well as Queen this time around. Now, one of the downsides with this team is there is no AoE, right? And you do have to watch your debuffs when it comes to Council. So we will, in the second round, have to manage with Archies as well as single target damage when we are on Council. So you are going to want to, from here, go towards the Juleeve Council. So I will run through that, and we will pick back up when we get there. Okay, so now we go into Juleeve Council. Now, one of the things I always tend to do before I go into the boss fight is I do try to make sure that I manual the last fight. That way I have literally all of my cooldowns ready and getting ready to go, right? So before we get into this, let's talk about Juleeve Council. Now, the first one is going to be called Black Death, and this the caster splits into 3 monsters when you're hit 70 and 40%. So you're going to have 3 different phases here. So until the core monster is killed, every time an enemy starts a turn, all enemies suffer damage proportional to the max health and have 1 buff dispelled. When reappearing after splitting, reappears with 70 or 40% of the caster of the health of the caster before splitting. So you cannot go past 70 or 40, very much like Banshee, right? So next one up is going to be Inflict Curse. When the caster is attacked while debuffed, this grants a random buff for 2 turns before dispelling all debuffs. So you are going to want to make sure that when you are fighting the Juleeve Council in the main form here, that you are not using debuffs, because otherwise it is going to really mess you up here. So you want to make sure that you're being very cognizant of that. Plague. Poisoned enemies will poison another enemy for 2 turns at the beginning of the turn. Effect does not occur while the caster is split. Now, this is why we bring a Momo. This is why we have Adventurer Russ for that debuff immunity. Going to be very important to manage that. And sometimes you are going to want to Ross S2 in order to get that debuff immunity up, even at the chance of you bringing a buff in on the council. Now, the next one is going to be Spread Disease. This attacks a random enemy, poisoning for 2 turns before granting a stackable increased attack and speed to the caster. This activates the same attack again afterwards. Okay, now the S3 here attacks all enemy, dispelling all buffs and extending the duration of debuffs by 2 turns. Damage dealt increases proportional to the number of debuffs. So you are going to want to make sure that you are getting the split in before you get hit with group ambush. That's going to be really, really big. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to fight the first round, and then I will stop and talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you're going to want to do after the split once we get to that point.
I hope you're ready.
二重の作戦よ。鍛錬は続けていますよ。毎日かかすことなく私の闘志をこの矛先に込めて。頑張ります。相手をしてあげましょう。参ります。
I'll protect you.
Okay, so as you can see in the very beginning there, we did open up with the Ross S2, potentially bringing a defense break in. Thankfully, it didn't, but you did get that debuff immunity up, and you did get the extra damage there. So that is something that you want to kind of think about here. Now, I didn't have the A Momo S2 in order to cleanse. I will at this point. Now, one of the things here is you have to remember that every single time you start a turn, your buffs are going to be gone. So there is really no point at this point to use the Ross S3, even though it is AoE, and he's also not really bringing a ton of damage, so you are going to want to rotate some Archies to get out of this phase as fast as possible. When you have the main boss as a singular unit and you're not taking damage every turn, it's a lot easier to manage things, get healed back, get fixed up. This phase, very, very tough, very stackingly and difficult. You are going to want to get burned through this as fast as humanly possible, and using Archie in this situation is going to be your best bet. So we will go through the rest of the fight, and I will interject if there is anything that I do need to explain here.
さすれば愚か者どもを噛みちぎってくれよう。
敵次第に交代はありません。はあ。このままでは私も手伝います。痛かったですよ。なりません。参ります。はあ。
If I must fight.
このままでは衛星を尽くします。元気がある。
このアルカサスを止められるものか。
鍛錬は続けていますよ。毎日欠かすことなく。はあ。
All right.
Okay, so as you noticed, you do need to hit and kill the core unit. The other two are dummies. Now, if it takes you a long time, you will it will get a buff that will tell you which one it is. But you notice that I didn't opt to Momo Soul Burn everybody for the big heal. That's because I knew that with Archie, I would be able to get the other two down before we suffered very, very big damage. So at this point, because you're coming back, because you are a little on the weaker side after that fight, you will want to Ross S3 here in order to heal him as well as get the defense buff up, so that way you are mitigating some damage between now and when you can use a Momo to get yourself completely healed up. But we will finish off the fight, and yeah.
Should we get started?
そこらの兵とは違います。さあ、引き返しよ。私の出番ですか？行きますよ。ほら、このままでは。いけません。参ります。
If I must fight. This won't be an easy fight.
士気を上げて。このままでは敵士団なのにやり。何か文句でも。見てなさい敵士たち。貫け。頑張ります。怖くて辛いですけど、絶対に諦めません。このままでは相手をしてあげましょう。正義なる剣よ。私も手伝います。
All right, let's do this. Yeah.
敵士団に交代はありません。
I'll protect you. Son of light. Burn!
負けません。このままでは再戦を尽くします。もう大丈夫です。
If I must fight, take this!
二重の作戦よ。
So personally, I do feel that this one is one of the harder fights in the game, just because it requires a very specific setup, and you can't really use much in the way of debuffs on this one. Not only that, but if you don't really manage the split phase, it is going to be very difficult. But you will want to, after this, make sure that you get your morale up, which both is a Momo, and then we will teleport over and we will finish up with the Queen. Now, the route that I go with the Queen, you will notice it's one of the easier mini bosses in order to do, and you'll also find out why it is that we made sure to clear a little bit of the path with the extra morale that we had previously. As you can see, we did go a little bit further up just to make sure that we utilized all of our morale. So I will be working my way up there, and I will get back to you once we get to the Queen. Okay, so going into Queen, you will be at a little bit of a morale disadvantage. This is going to make things a little bit tougher, right? But overall, if you can manage Queen, it's actually not too very hard, and it is quite straightforward. So once you hit Queen, she is going to pop out these minions. You're going to have the two bottom left-hand side ones, and then you're going to have the top two. Now, these are going to be linked to the Queen, and after she falls past 50%, she will break out the second pair. Now, Queen's Servant, after taking damage for the first time, attacks all enemies before hatching 2 eggs to summon 2 Devourer Arahakans. Thus, when the caster's health is less than 50 after taking damage, grants an extra turn to the caster and uses Death Trap before hatching 2 eggs to summon 2 flying troops. The queen absorbs some of the damage taken by the summoned characters. The flying troops have a 30% chance to counterattack whenever she takes damage. The eggs are invincible and immune before hatching. Okay, what I said. Queen's Authority grants increased attack and defense for 2 turns at the start of every single turn, and grants stackable increased attack at the end of each turn. When inflicted with 3 or more debuffs after being attacked, the caster is granted an extra turn and all debuffs are dispelled. Again, don't want to be stacking too much in the way of debuffs on this unit. Queen's Terror decreases the target's attack, hit chance, and speed as the health of the enemies decreases. At the beginning of the turn, stuns targets with less than 30% health for 1 turn. You are going to want to make sure that your characters are being very, very healthy out here. Hellish Cut attacks the enemy, increasing skill cooldowns by 1 turn before dispelling all buffs. When the enemy's health is 50% or less, activates an additional AoE attack. Typically, this is going to hit your front main tank. However, it can hit just about anybody. Typically, though, I do see it hit the tank most of the time. So something to keep in mind there. Death Trap attacks all enemies, inflicting stackable defense and speed decrease. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's lost health. This skill can only be used when the caster's health is less than 50%. So this is going to be a race against time, and you are also going to want to make sure that your team is staying healthy and mitigated. So let's get into this, and I will show you how to manage this fight.
All right, let's do this. This won't be an easy fight.
二重の作戦よ。そこらの兵とは違います。だって指揮官ですから。盾騎士団なのにやり？何か文句でも？はあ？再戦を尽くします。負けません。
I'll protect you. Purifying flame. Burn away the evil. If I must fight.
相手をしてあげましょう。正義なる剣よ。盾騎士団に交代はありません。私の闘志をこの矛先に込めて。
Should we get started? I hope you're ready.
士気を上げて。鍛錬は続けていますよ。毎日欠かすことなく。
Okay, now you will notice that I have been saving up my souls, and this is because after you get past 50%, you are going to want to burn down the bees as fast as possible, as well as Queen, because of the stacking attack as well as the stacking debuffs onto your own team. So that is what we're going to be doing. As soon as we break this 50%, we are going to be just straight up archy rushing the Queen as fast as possible.
I must fight.
登場はもっと盛大にあるある。
まあよい。神聖なる力だ。
頑張ります。怖くて辛いですけど絶対に諦めません。盾騎士団なのにやり何か文句でも。私の出番ですか。元気にある。
このアルカサスを止められるものか。
相手をしてあげましょう。参ります。
I'll protect you. Son of light. Burn!
そこらの兵とは違います。だって指揮官ですから。見てなさい、敵士たち。貫け。
All right, let's do this. Take this.
二重の作戦よ。再戦を尽くします。アルキンの活躍を褒めるある。
さすれば愚か者どもを噛みちぎってくれよう。
Okay, and there you have it. That is every single raid boss in the normal hunt with 3-star characters with semi free to play gear in 3 runs. Now, one thing that you can do is you can extend these a little bit more, hit more of the mini bosses. Also, you can get Molagora seeds out of the Queen's Gift. However, if you are just starting out, I would fully suggest getting the speed chest piece out of here. These are going to be very important for you as you go. However, if you are already rocking 85 gear, these can be passed up in favor of, like I said, the Queen's Gift. This is something that I buy typically, but early on, if you are having problems getting speed gear, these are going to be very, very good for you, as well as the daggers as well. Those are going to help take you quite a bit of the way, but I would suggest fully afterwards getting the Queen's Chest just for the chance for the Molagora, right? But again, you can, like I said, come in here and do other mini bosses. There are 2 to 3 extra mini bosses in most of the wings. These are going to drop accessories. These are going to drop more currency in terms of ancient coins. These are going to drop potentially more coronation souvenirs, as well as other accessory items, your rings, things along those lines. But that was it. Hopefully you guys did find this very valuable as a free-to-play player. It just goes to show that you can do this with just 3-star characters, as well as reasonably obtainable gear. But as always, if you guys haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I do definitely appreciate it. If you do, hit the bell notification, all of that jazz. Share this out to Reddit, Facebook, Discords, wherever you see people that are having issues. Anybody who's stating that they just can't make it through the raids, just show them this, and hopefully your drops are phenomenal. As always, again, Shotgun Shogun, this is the training grounds, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy, homies. Peace.
Crack it.